YouTube, what is going on? It is Gino Bonino here, and I want to thank you for tuning in to one of my videos. Today we're going to do our second in our series called COMICHAX. Some of these will be pretty intense and important. Some of them will be kind of more along the lines of common sense and something that I could see someone rolling their eyes at. I can relate. This one's going to be kind of like that. It's going to be one of those common sense ones that solves a problem that maybe a lot of you don't have, but I do inevitably see this question come up every now and again on Facebook. People wanting to know how to solve this problem. Again, you'd think that they could figure it out, but I can understand the reason for it. And what it involves is this. It's somebody has a collection, and as their collection gets bigger, they'll either go to a brown bag dollar sale, or they will donate a bunch of comics to family member or give them away or something like that. Inevitably what happens is their comic collection changes in size, and they want to know how to deal with that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Right here we've got our small short box of comics, and we've got that inevitable problem, which is you've got less comics than you have box. So you've got a situation where they tend to lean on one another. And the reason that that's a pain is, and this maybe has happened to you, I know it's happened to me, this books on the very end sometimes will squirt underneath the other books, and it'll create a real nasty situation where the bottom of the book gets curled in and then set up and then pressed upon, and it's just nasty. Or you'll have these kind of leaning in on other books, and it'll create spine ticks and bends in the middle of the book and stuff like that. So it is a problem. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is cardboard. Again, I try to do stuff as cheaply as possible with just the materials you may have laying around. I know you can buy these at any place that sells comic supplies. You can buy the plastic ones and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with that. The nice thing about the plastic ones is they usually give you like a little tab up here so you can write what's in the box and stuff, so I get that. But I'm just going with, somebody trying to save a buck and spend their money towards more comic books. And so that's what we're doing here. We're doing it with as cheap as possible with materials a lot of you have on hand. Everybody typically has cardboard boxes. Nowadays with Amazon shipping as much stuff as they do, there's boxes, I see boxes all the time. So what you want to do is get some cardboard, cut it to size, and what I mean by that is try to get it about the same size as your box, and the reason being because it kind of solves the same problem as what we're trying to fix with the cardboard, which is cardboard, you want to get it as close to the edge here as possible, because then you don't have edge and edge for the comics to push up around. And the reason for this is because these boxes have this little flap, and I don't know if you can see it real well, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. It has this flap which doesn't go all the way to the top, and because of that, what happens is it creates this sharp edge right here that if a bunch of books are getting pushed against it, can create a little bit of a crease in the back of a book. Even if you have something like a full back or whatever protecting it, I still just don't like this idea of having a sharp edge here. And even worse, you'll have a lot of times with the short and long boxes that have this little cardboard thing for your fingers, and a lot of times it'll pop in and go upward, and the whole idea, I think, is it kind of keeps this thing from bending down. It sort of is like a little tab that holds it in. I know you can cut them off, and I usually do, but if you don't, it even creates another situation where you've got a tiny little piece of cardboard that's making another layer. So once again, pushing books against there, figuring that you may leave these things in storage or something like that for years can create a problem. So what we're trying to do is solve that. So the first thing, like I mentioned, is you want to cut some cardboard, get it as smooth as possible. I use 4 pieces. I use one against the edge and one where the books end, and it creates this little empty space right here, and I'm going to show you how we're going to fix this so these books stay up. Now, if you're really good at with an X-Acto knife, a lot of times you can cut this to kind of the size, and it'll wedge in here and create sort of a natural standing point, and that's all fine and good, but not all these boxes are exactly the same size. Some of them are a little bigger than others. I've noticed with different companies, they've got different size boxes, so this is why the cardboard thing is such a good idea, because I can take this piece of cardboard and put it in just about any box, and it would work because it's bigger than the comic, but yet it's still fits in pretty much any size box. So that's why I like this idea. So anyway, I put one on back and then one on the edge. And again, I call this kind of setting the edge, if you will, and I've got all this empty space. Especially important to do this in the front, because in the front you've got the colored part of the book. This is the back, this is the front, the colored part of the book. And again, if you have a situation where light gets to your boxes, I could see it being conceivable to where this little hole that is uncovered could create sort of a noticeable color difference in your books over a period of many years. So once again, I would suggest putting cardboard in front, putting cardboard here and here in the empty space. Now here's what we're going to talk about. Like I mentioned, the problem is your books bend over, the end ones a lot of times will squirt underneath the rest of the pressure of the books because there's empty space right here where this book is leaning. If you figure this book leans like this, so there's some empty space, and these bottom books will kind of curl under, and then these will push against it, and it's just a major pain. I have had that happen, actually. So what you want to do is, this is how I fill this space. There's a few different ways you can do it. You can put a box in here if you can get one the size. You could cut styrofoam and put it in here. That works too, or shipping peanuts, anything like that would be fine. The problem is if your comics change often, then you've got to cut different size stuff. What I find works, and it's very easily adjustable, is plain old-fashioned shopping bags. The kind of stuff that you get at the grocery store. If you go to Walmart, all that kind of stuff, you know what I'm talking about. They have tons of them. First of all, these are easily to get. They're usually, everybody has them laying around their house. If you happen to be a house that doesn't have them, maybe you use the recyclable bags or you use just paper bags. You can go to just about any grocery store, and right at the entrance where you walk into the store, a lot of times they'll have a receptacle where people bring these in and dump them so the store can deal with them. If you go and ask the store manager or whatever, can I have a few of those? Typically they have absolutely no problem with that. So the whole idea being that whatever size space you have, you put this in. And again, this is adjustable. If you find that you need, if it's a little bit too tight and it's creating too much pressure here, you can take out some of the bags and tie them off and stick it somewhere. If you find that you get rid of some books and now it's too loose and you need more, you do just exactly the opposite. You open it up and stick some more bags in there. Really doesn't matter what kind. I've got all types. I've got some from comic book store. I've got some from clothing stores, great big ones, stuff like that. It doesn't much matter. And then you just tie it a little bit bigger. If you really want to, you can close it up so there's a little bit of air in there. It creates kind of like a big bubble. But anyway, that is my hack for keeping my boxes, my comics standing upright and everything working well. Now, a couple things, little caveats. One, I don't know how this would work for a long-term storage. For example, I don't think I would leave anything that's plasticky for, tens and tens and tens of years. I think if that was the case, if I was going to store this and say I was going to go off and leave my collection and it was going to, sit for God knows how many years, I think I would use something maybe like paper toweling. This has obviously much less chemicals in it, and stick that in there. But I mean, as far as that goes, the plastic that you put your bags in, that degenerates out over time too. I mean, they suggest, I think, every 15 years or so you're supposed to change out your bags. So I would assume the same thing holds true with probably this plastic. It seems like it's fairly consistent to the comic book bag plastic that you use. It might be a little bit thinner, but I assume the breakdown rate is just about the same. So this is something that I'm talking about doing mainly temporary. I would say for, let's call it 5 years or less, or maybe a year or less, because I'm always messing with my collection, and this is a box that as I buy and sell every day, this will adjust, so it's something that I need to fill, change the size of all the time. So that is it, guys. That is my comic hack. Like I said, it's not a biggie. It's one of those common sense sort of things. There's other ways to do it. I get it. They probably sell stuff. I bet they sell inflatable balloons that you can change the size. But this is a cheap solution to the problem. It's something that everybody typically has. You probably can go down to a storage cabinet and find a bunch of these bags right now. And then I usually have a few of these tied off. As I need it, I'll throw them in the storage area or my garage or whatever. I'll have a bunch of these and I will adjust them to size. If one isn't doing it, or if you can always push it down a little bit and put another one on top, a smaller one, because sometimes you'll notice that over time the comics will start pushing against it, and this wasn't tied off quite as tightly as you thought it would, and you'll start getting a little bit of pushing against it. In that case, you just push it back, open this up, add a few more bags, and then put it back, and you'll find that it solves the problem in a nutshell. So that is it, guys. That is my comic hack, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope a couple of you at least learned something, and maybe this is something you'll try out that you didn't think about before. But for me, it works great. That's it. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you later. Gino Bonino, I am out. Bye for now.